Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. This is a live stream 1194. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the tabletop news of the day, and then I will maybe pontificate about a topic related to our hobby, or take a first look at a game, maybe unbox a board game. More than likely, in a situation like that, we will actually be paging through a role-playing game release, as we will be tonight. Or sometimes we just chat after the news. But tonight, we're going to dive on in and take a peek inside Age of Vikings from Chaosium Inc. That's right. This is built on the basic role-playing system. It is now in stores, and we're going to dive on in and take a peek at this. It's about 312 pages or so, if I remember correctly. Looks pretty cool. So we're going to dive on in and see what's inside. But of course, before we do that, we're going to tackle the tabletop gaming news. So if you are tuning in because you want to see that live first look at Age of Vikings, let me point out, probably going to be about 30, maybe 35 minutes before we get into that first look. So if you're hanging out live, just kick up your feet, relax, enjoy yourself. If you happen to be watching this after the fact, maybe on Memorex, then there are timestamps. So if you want to skip past the tabletop gaming news, you certainly can. And those timestamps are located in the show notes, as well as in the timeline of the video, depending on the device you might be watching this video on. Well. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live stream, that means there is chat available. You must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 minutes before you can take part in chat. One of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. First out the gate tonight is Sean O'Donnell. We've also got Semper Buffo, Kevin King, Freddie P, Hector Martinez. Mike is with us, as is GameCat, LJ Constanzo. The Madman is popping on in. Yes, good friend of the show and one of our chat moderators. Pete Strakulich is also with us. So welcome aboard, everybody. I'll also take a guess. The lovely and talented Miss Sarah D might be lurking in the shadows as another of our chat moderators, she of the glittery banhammer. Kabong! Now hold on there a minute, Baba Louie. I'll do the thinning around here. Not a very good quick draw McGraw, but not bad, not terrible. Agile Monk is popping on in, and yes, Sarah D is with us tonight as well. So let's jump on into the news, because Tales of the Valiant Player's Guide 2 is now up for crowdfunding over on Kickstarter. And here is the scoop from my friends over at Kobold Press. Player's Guide 2 is the first major rule supplement honed to perfection by Kobold Press. This huge leap forward for the Tales of the Valiant role-playing game gives its 5e-based system new downtime rules, expanded strongholds, improved ritual casting, and a range of new subclasses, a dozen new lineages, and more than 150 spells and rituals. The Vanguard martial class, as well as the Witch and the Theurge casting classes, offer new paths to adventure. The heart of the project is the hardcover edition of Player's Guide 2, with its own library binding and fully linked PDF to enable easy reference and quick lookups. Other options and stretch goals will expand the total package with additional character tools, new lineages, and more. Now, there is a short Kickstarter video for the project. Let's give it a peek.
In a world where heroes are forged, the power returns to the players. Kobold Press presents Player's Guide 2. More than 250 pages of character-focused options, completely compatible with Tales of the Valiant and 5th edition games. Craft epic warriors with the new Vanguard class, or unleash powerful magic with the reimagined Witch and Theurge classes. Level up your favorite core class with 48 new subclasses, expanded heroic boons, over 150 new spells, and even magical tattoos. Game Masters also have countless new options, ensuring encounters on and off the battlefield will never be the same. Engage your players with expanded downtime rules, customizable base building options, vehicle upgrades, and more. Bring more than luck to your next adventure and become the hero you were always meant to be. Download the free preview PDF and back Player's Guide 2 on Kickstarter today.
The Kickstarter project is already fully funded. In fact, it's nearing the 300% funding mark. You can reserve a copy of the Player's Guide 2 in hardcover with PDF for a $59 pledge. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so for a $29 pledge through June 27th. Expected delivery, both digital and physical, is January. Yes, more goodies for Tales of the Valiant. Pretty sweet, pretty cool. Glad to see that. I am going to be sharing my why you should play Tales of the Valiant video in the next couple of weeks. So look forward to that. A few more people popping on into chat. We've got W. Forge, Tessie Trekkie, Kathy Evans, Dark Autumn Scribe, and William Hellius, or Helhesius. It's just William H. Agile Monk says, you know why I can't, I'm going to take a guess, use these tier 2, almost tier 1 tabletop role-playing game companies, just make their products and sell them. Instead, they take so much money away from indie tabletop role-playing game companies who then have to compete for Kickstarter monies. I would disagree with you on that. I think everybody has a pretty even playing field on Kickstarter. Because remember, Kickstarter tends to share some of their, oh, this is our favorite, right? On a lot of indies, they don't tend to do that with, say, a Kobold Press. Agile Monk says, Kobold Press and Paizo and a few others really don't need the Kickstarters. Paizo doesn't kickstart their releases. I don't recall ever seeing a Kickstarter for Paizo. But yes, Kobold Press, the vast majority of their releases are crowdfunded. And I got to point out, Agile Monk probably thinks Kobold Press is a far larger company than it is. Because they have about, if I remember correctly, I think they've got like 6 full-time employees, which for a role-playing game company would be pretty big. But still, it's not a ton of people. It's mostly freelancers. Agile Monk says they know 3 folks there. Funny enough, that's the number of people I know from there. I mean, seriously. Dark Autumn Scribe says, Tales of the Valiant intrigues them, but they're too into non-D20 games. Yeah, I can completely understand that. Certainly understand it. I say all the time, in fact, we've got a couple of folks who pop in to chat who are like always buying new games. And it's sort of like, my God, it's like, can't you just pick a couple or three that you're going to run? Hey, I mean, I get it. The companies appreciate that, but still. Agile Monk says they have 6 to 7, another half a dozen freelancers. They actually have more people freelancing than that. But still, I'm just saying, as far as the actual Kickstarter and backer kit and game found, everybody's on pretty even footing to start off. Agile Monk says, yes, they're guilty of buying too many games. Freddie P says, don't shame me for buying Daggerheart. I wouldn't do that. Not at all. Sammy's going to review it. She's got the PDF of it. So she is going to be reviewing the core book. So yeah, I'm curious about it myself. Would it necessarily be, my choice? I don't know. Sounds kind of odd, kind of weird. Lord Cost 2000 is joining us in chat too. Agile Monk says, I just like to support the hobby. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it. I'm sure the sticking to it is arriving shortly enough. So talking about independence, because you do realize, those of you who are watching, I talk about independent game companies constantly because I'm always looking to help spread the word. And right now, arriving in print is the Afterburn supplement for the Orbital Blues role-playing game. I've got the lowdown from SoulMuppet Publishing. Afterburn, the Afterburn. To live in the Afterburn is to open yourself up to all the joys, all the troubles, and all the dilemmas that the frontier galaxy has to offer. Orbital Blues Afterburn is the first source book for, yeah, you guessed it, Orbital Blues, and is split into 3 sections. The Starship Manual, which is a fully illustrated in-world spaceship brochure featuring a dozen classes of characterful spaceships, complete with adverts and buckets full of game-usable lore. There's also the Storyteller's Guide, a varied toolkit to help run games in the Outlaw Galaxy, with info on spaceship engineering, faster-than-light travel, system and plot generation, and alternate special rules for warmth and joy. There's also the Tennessee Five, a richly storied adventure made up of the planets of Anchorage 4, Edison, Gallatin, Orid, and Rothko. This huge sandbox contains all manner of heists and opportunities for enterprising outlaws to make their mark. Finally, you'll find an appendix gives rules for Android player characters with a selection of troubles and gambits. So saddle up, space folk. Orbital Blues is a lo-fi space western role-playing game from SoulMuppet Publishing, exploring the dusty retro future worlds of the Outlaw Galaxy. This 264-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $40. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $20. And if you are curious about Orbital Blues, Sammy has reviewed that for the Gaming Gang. We do have a written review of it. And off the top of my head, she liked it quite a bit. I think it's probably, if once again, off the top of my head, I think the review score is about an 8.5, thereabouts. W. Ford says they've got Orbital Blues, but they've yet to actually play it. William asks, speaking of dusting, how much dusting do you do in a week in the gaming cave? Just once. It's not real dusty in the duct tape studios, thankfully. So yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, there's some spots down here that I probably haven't hit in a couple of weeks, but for the most part, like behind me and that, It's about a weekly basis or so. Tessie Trekkie says Orbital Blues is a great little system. My understanding is it's sort of inspired by, well, I think it's probably obvious, Cowboy Bebop, but I thought it's also got a little inspiration from like Trigun. So I haven't had an opportunity to take a peek at it, but like I said, Sammy has reviewed it. Moonrise Long, available in print and PDF, is the Black Rainbow Society. And here's the skinny from Exalted Funeral. A group of radical psychonauts with anarcho-punk tendencies strive to comprehend our reality through paranormal investigations and lethargic exploration. This unholy book is a fair tribute to the dark children of the horror genre. Splatterpunk, grindhouse, rubber reality, body horror, and B-movie references will plague these pages, infecting your mind with a terrifying lust for 80s nostalgia and unforgettable experiences which will brand your forsaken soul for all eternity. Oh, there are such sights to show you. This unholy book features literature, poetry, essays, quotes, random tables, plot hooks, and a whole array of visual stimuli designed specifically to provoke an unstoppable desire to immerse yourself in this 80s rock and roll roller coaster. It also provides missions, plot hooks, random events, and a robust system, which will pretty much guide your sessions through a surreal tour de force. Plus, the Black Rainbow Society also features a killer glow-in-the-dark cover. What are the inspirations for this book? Well, the main inspirations are Scanners, Hellraiser, The Lost Boys, Into the Mouth of Madness, and the writings of William Burroughs, the true godfather of this work. The 96-page, 6-inch by 8-inch hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $32. If you want to just grab the PDF alone to trip to, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $8. So the thing I'm curious about here is, what is rubber reality? I know what splatterpunk is. Of course, I know what grindhouse is and body horror and B-movies. I mean, shit, I shared umpteen trailers of B-movies during our brief intermissions. But what is rubber reality? Never heard of it. Not familiar. Not familiar at all. W. Ford asks if I ever had to replace any shelves or reverse them due to them bending. Not with the bookcases behind me. Bookcases behind me have held up very, very nicely. I have some others that are not wood that I stored various different things on. And those I actually have to brace. And it's not like I've got really heavy things on it, or on them, I should say. It's just the fact that they're cheapo shelves. So anyway, the Black Rainbow Society. Ooh, scary kids, scary. Let's see. We've got, I think, a couple newbies popping on. I shouldn't say newbies because they visited before. I know we've got Keith McGrath in chat. Maybe that was the only new person popping in. Oh no, Warren Rawlings. I knew there were a couple. Yeah, the newer bookcases you get these days do have bending flat parts. You have to flip around about every couple of years. Agile Monk says, rubber reality genre, where the characters in the movie are not aware that the true nature of reality is different from their perceptions. Oh, like Videodrome. That would be a movie that pops right into mind. Yes. Or In the Mouth of Madness. That would be another one. Right, there you go. There you go. On to our next news piece. Galactic and Going Rogue are both science fiction role-playing games, which are currently undergoing new additions to be included in a single volume And I've got the skinny about the Kickstarter project from Jumpgate Games. There is a beating heart at the center of the galaxy. You are the brave who hear it. As members of the Liberation, you've dedicated your lives to the war against the Mandate, on the dream that one day the stars might shine free of its fascist rule. You are rebels, soldiers, spies, and criminals, or perhaps someone who simply picked up a blaster and said, enough is enough. Whoever you are, the Liberation has a place for you. And so does Jumpgate Games. In Galactic and Going Rogue, two beloved tabletop role-playing games of rebellion and space are finally coming to print in a new 3rd edition, with both games now bound together in one fully illustrated, full-color, 5.5-inch by 8.5-inch hardcover with all new art and layout. Whether you're the charming heroes of Galactic, inspired by the classic Star Wars trilogies, or the tragic martyrs of the Rogue One and Andor-inspired Going Rogue, these games have everything you need to tell your story of resistance, relationship, and galaxy-spanning adventure. And best of all, there is no game master required. Just gather your party of 2 to 6 players and let the pillars in Riley Rethal's Galactic shape your story of rebellion. Is the liberation of your campaign more interested in retaliatory violence and ideological discourse, or imagination of a better world and working together? Does the space between, that mystical energy which binds the galaxy together, pull you towards intense bonds and uncontainable emotions, or unity with those who came before? Will any of that be enough to save you when the Mandate opts to put someone in immediate danger, or a player has the scum and villainy invite a betrayal? You'll have to play to find out. Does your party want to explore the darker, more difficult moments of revolution? Then flip to Jess Levine's Going Rogue, winner of Crit Awards 2023 Best GM-less Game of the Year. In your galaxy, do Liberation spies and the intelligence want reduced oversight and leverage over Liberation members? Or are they content to bear the heaviest burdens so others don't have to, as they hunt for the heads of the Mandate officials? What do they do when the parliament governing the Liberation desires lengthy deliberation and safety from retribution for the innocent? Decide quickly, because fate is calling. The gravity of the sacrifice pulls every game of Going Rogue toward one inevitable end. You know from the beginning that your characters will give their lives in a selfless act that moves the galaxy closer to freedom. But why would your band of cynics, loners, and misfits grow into people who would sacrifice everything in pursuit of a dream? That's a question only you can answer. Now, there is a Kickstarter video. It's a little more than 3 minutes, and it seems like it is built upon some actual plays, but you'll get a better peek at the new artwork and layout for Galactic and Going Rogue.
The Mandate is impressive, Admiral. Its reach is vast, its grip fierce. It seems as if there's no escape from its gravity, a stellar superpower that rules the galaxy through fear, propaganda, and alienation. It is powerful, but it is not, Admiral, invulnerable.
And he kind of perks up and smiles, gets in a seat, locks in.
Hey, Flyboy, go be a hero.
I don't know how to fix anything, but I'm pulling stuff out until something breaks. I hope this wasn't important.
And you're gonna overcharge the hell out of those guns.
Now let's go take these people down.
I'm not like many of my comrades, Admiral. I've forgotten how to feel their joy, excitement, steadfast belief that the world we're building is just over the horizon. At the very least, I feel certain that I'll never witness it. But I must admit, Admiral, it brings me great solace to know that neither will you.
Can I gain another token for lying to go to my dad? Yes.
Yeah, that's the juice. Absolutely.
And I think on comms, in a tone that no one has heard from her before, is like, how do we fix it?
Other people need to know that this is happening, and I don't trust the liberation.
I suppose I shouldn't have saved you.
I think I've had enough of this. How about you?
I'm gonna blow this place up. And then the factory explodes.
By now, I've come to understand something important. When your guards strike me down, if that compels even two young hopefuls to look up at the stars and decide that enough is enough, to carry the banner of the liberation, well then, Admiral, your loss will be inevitable. My past might blot out the suns that hang on the horizon, but I know for each rebel like me, there are 10,000 more orbiting the same stars, watching them shine, bright as day. And that gives me hope. So please, Admiral, answer a question for me. As your time in this galaxy nears its end, tell me, I want to know your power, your life's work, your mandate. Does it give you hope?
The Kickstarter project for Galactic and Going Rogue is well past the 450% funding mark. You can reserve a copy of the core book with PDF for a $40 pledge. If you want to grab just the PDF, you can do so for a $20 pledge through June 30th. Expected delivery is September 2026. That is that's a bit out there. It's a little way out there. I don't know. But gotta say, sounds pretty interesting. I do see that some folks in chat are discussing the politics of games like this, and that the new edition of Rebel Scum had problems with DriveThruRPG. Yes, I think it was, as Kevin King is pointing out, the introduction in the game itself talks about how it's supposed to be political. And I think that was what kind of set off DriveThruRPG, because one of their stances is that your games can't be overly political. Yeah. Yes. So there's also discussion of me being a game pimp. All right, if you want to call it that, that's fine. Hey, as long as we help keep publishers around and making games, and the games are good, you can call me a game pimp. I don't mind. It's all right. Blanchitsu is returning to chat. Good to see you once again. Says a lot of these Kickstarters have really far off delivery dates. Yeah, I don't know if some of them are kind of tossing out these far off dates so they can kind of cover their butts because of shipping and tariffs and stuff like that. I don't know. I have no idea. But usually when you see something that's that far off, it's not a game that's finished. Where yes, I understand these are new additions that these are both getting, but still, as far as I understand, they are still the same games, just new layout, some new artwork. Don't know. I do not know. All right, moving on to our last news piece. The Zweihander role-playing game has returned with a new edition from SLLSWORD Publishing. And here's what I know about the Reforged Edition core rulebook. No more heroes. The Emmy Award-winning fantasy horror game Zweihander is back in a new edition. This tabletop role-playing game contains everything you need to play. A player's handbook, a game master's guide, a monster manual, and a full-length adventure. Take on the mantle of one of the 14 ancestries like human, Damphir, elf, Furbolg, gargoyle, or woodwose. Craft flawed characters from over 100 medieval professions like blasphemer, pugilist, smuggler, or witch. Your broken heroes will navigate political machinations, conjure forbidden magic, and battle horrifying creatures from beyond the grave. Yes. Of course, there is also going to be an backward compatibility with the first edition game line, which was published by Andrews McMeel Publishing and Grim and Perilous Studios. This 571-page PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $29.99. Yup. So we've got some comments about Zweihander. Warren Rollins says, I thought this was new. I don't know if that's, I thought this was new or I thought this was new. Like it's not new. Lanchitsu says, anyone who's a fan of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay will love Zweihander. Don't necessarily say that, because I know of some folks who are big fans of Wifrip who are, let's say, less than fans. You know, you might recall author Daniel Fox sent me the starter set, and I did an unboxing video. We took a peek at it. It was actually jam-packed with stuff. Getting ready to review it, and Andrews McMeel announces they're getting out of the role-playing game business immediately. I was like, what? I was like, what the hell? It was kind of weird, kind of strange. It was like, whoa. All righty. So it's kind of like, well, do I review something that you can't buy now? It's like, yeah. Who was it just said? Sharon Donald says, all right, so the reviews they've seen says, go like, it's Wifrip 40 mechanics without any of the support. More like first edition than fourth. But the reality is there aren't massive changes with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. There are some with fourth. But Keith McGrath asks, is this a unique system? It is a D100, as Kevin R. Smith is pointing out. Let's see. Sharon All says, if they've got adventures, they still might bite. They do have adventures. They are for the previous edition, which I'm thinking is not going to be very difficult to utilize with this new edition. My guess, would this be a more complicated system to play, or where on the scale would it weigh? Well, more complicated than what? So anything, here's the funny thing. The one thing with percentile-based games, which we are going to be looking at one tonight with Age of Vikings, they tend to be more intuitive for people to pick up because they can understand, oh, I've got a 45% chance of being able to do this. I've got a 60% chance of doing this. Now, of course, there's more to it than that with WIFRIP because they have these success levels and things like that that are a little trickier, but the premise is pretty much the same. But I will say the starter set was pretty impressive. And if I remember correctly, I think it was $30, $40, and you were certainly getting your money's worth with it. Now, as you can see, artwork throughout, pretty cool. It's pretty good artwork. I think that was one of the things about the starter set. If I remember, in fact, I'm almost positive that one of the things I would have included in my review was the artwork was rather all over the place. Some of it was good, like we just saw, and some of it was not as good. Still had kind of that same style, but you could tell it was a completely different artist. But anyway, so there you go. New edition. Zweihander, which is how I believe it is supposed to be pronounced. Okay, so here's a little tidbit for you. To my understanding, so Zweihander is truly a two-handed sword, although you could do things with it just with one hand. Germans probably never called it that. I forget the two words because I remember watching a video about swords and the Zweihander came up. And I remember this guy was like he was a real expert in swords. And he was talking about how the Germans probably never called it that, even though we call it that. So, Der Krieger92 is with us in chat. I believe it's first time visit with us. Welcome aboard. Says they've been following the Gaming Gang for a bit now because of all the bits they've seen on Blue Sky. Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I post stuff on all the, well, not all, but, some of the social media sites to kind of spread the word of what's cooking. Agile Monk says, no, they didn't. They didn't call it that. Keith McGrath says, I think it's Silesia. I think that was one of them. I think that was one of them. So, anywho, that is the news for tonight. So, of course, I was talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the DriveThruRPG sites, as well as all of the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit, say, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the drive-through fiction or cards or comics, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all that really goes a long, long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do have a Patreon. And of course, you can find the link to it in the show notes below. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, maybe you want to buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Ooh, that's refreshing. There is a link to PayPal where you can make a one-time donation. Of course, also want to mention, if you'd like to hang with the gang, we do have a Discord server. There's a Discord server invite down in the show notes. Of course, there's so much packed in the show notes. And as I like to do with all of our live streams, give a shout out to all of our Patreon members at the $10 or higher level of support. So big thank you to Tessie Trekkie, Dan Webb, Tier 2 DM, GameCat, as well as Pete Straklich, as well as special recognition for our $25 level supporters, the Madman and Agile Monk. Actually, have quite a few of our supporters in chat with us. Yes. Agile Monk is talking about the Claymore. See, that's what I always had heard it called. It wasn't until just a few years back I started hearing the term Zweihander. So like, okay. All right. See. We are going to be taking a look at Age of Vikings in just a few moments. Before we do so, do want to mention I am going to be launching a game sale. It'll probably launch June 1st and run through the end of the month. And the reality is this is going to set us up for Gen Con. So essentially what I'm going to do is, because remember, now I've got an SUV, I could bring far more to Gen Con for the auction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share everything I'm bringing to the auction, and I am going to give our members of the Discord server first shot at it. So there will be a link to the sale that will not necessarily be floating around publicly. I'm not going to promote it. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to hide it on the website. So if somebody finds it on the website, I'm not going to be like, oh no, you're not on our Discord server. You can't buy any of this stuff yet. But I am going to give people who are members of our Discord server first shots, and whatever doesn't sell is just going to go to Indianapolis, be put into the auction. So essentially what I'm saying is if you see something you're interested in, get it, because you will not have a chance with a later game sale down the line. All that stuff's going to be gone. So just letting you know. And Agile Monk with a $10 super chat saying thanks for all I do, being the game pimp. There you go. Just change the name of the show now. It won't be the Dispatch anymore. It'll just be the game pimp. No, I don't think so. All right. So tonight we're going to dive on in. We're going to take a look at Age of Vikings from Chaosium Inc. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Good evening. It's intermission time. And during the next 10 minutes, we invite you to visit our refreshment stand located in the center of the drive-in. Service is friendly, quick. You'll buy bags, pizza, your favorite kids, hotly cold beverages, other delicious snacks. So, after you're done with watching the movie, visit our refreshment stand right now during our 10-minute intermission. We're glad to have you with us tonight. We hope you come to see us often. It's great to copy the movie.
Wherefore art thou, Romeo, and whereof is my Wilkins instant coffee?
The coffee's all gone.
Well, so am I.
Space Patrollers, you're about to witness the unveiling of a top secret, a scientific marvel that will take you through all space and time. The rocket cockpit. It's an exact scale model of the cockpit of the new XRC, and it's for you.
That's right, gang. You can have a rocket cockpit. You can set it to controls just the way I do aboard the XRC. All you do, you just set your time computer for star drive and whiz through time, and then advance your throttles, and you exceed the speed of light.
Send and receive secret messages with the master codes and fire the deadly atomic cannons at enemy ships. Look through the viewscope and imagine yourself whizzing through time and space. Up, 40, 50, 100,000 miles an hour. Past the moon. Above Mars. Through the millions of stars, in the rings of Saturn, always protected by your powerful atomic cannons.
That's right, gang. And say, this model is a real beauty, and it makes a sensational trainer with all the scientifically scaled modern parts.
Every one of you space patrollers will want one, so you can fly along with us. Or dream up your own exciting missions. We want every boy and girl to have the thrill of owning this rocket cockpit. So get a pencil and paper. In a few minutes, we'll tell you how to get yours.
Space Patrollers, now you can have all the fun and excitement of flying your very own spaceship. Yes, you can get this tremendous rocket cockpit. Will you show the Space Patrollers how it works, Tony?
Sure, Captain Barkley. Fellas and girls, the rocket cockpit is really great. Just like having your own spaceship. Look, these are the time computers. The directions tell you how to fix them for star drive, so you can travel through time. Set these rocket controls and you'll go more than 100,000 miles an hour. Look at all the big planets on this viewscope. See? The names come up automatically. You get master coders to send secret messages, to decode secret messages, to communicate in a language that only space patrollers can know. And here's my favorite, the atom cannons. You load the barrels like this, aim through these sights, and zoom, you fire, and hit every time. You can pretend you're flying along with Commander Corey, or dream up your own adventures. Play it alone or with a pal. You can have make-believe wars and everything.
Wait a minute, Tony. I want to tell everybody how to get the rocket cockpit. Just send your name and address and 25 cents in coin, along with the lid from a can of Nestle's Ever-Ready Cocoa or a tracing of the front of the label to Nestle, Box 54, St. Louis, Missouri. And hurry, because you'll need this rocket cockpit to join Commander Corey in all his new adventures and to decode those secret messages. So, send your name and address and 25 cents, plus the lid from a can of Nestle's Ever-Ready Cocoa or a tracing of the front of the label to Nestle, Box 54, St. Louis, Missouri.
Gang, send for your rocket cockpit today.
I love how you can just send a sketch, just trace the front of the box. Oh, yeah, you don't have to send in the label, just trace it. That's good enough. And don't forget your quarter. Make sure you send your quarter. W4 says, I guess St. Louis didn't need a zip code. A lot of these old, like promos and stuff, no zip codes. They never shared the zip code. It's kind of weird. Looks pretty wild. I gotta say, that did look pretty cool. I mean, it's only a big chunk of cardboard, but still not too shabby. Shozama85 and DB are with us tonight in chat. Welcome. Good to see you. All right. So tonight, we are going to take a peek at Age of Vikings from Chaosium Inc. This 312-page hardcover with PDF is available now. It carries an MSRP of $59.99. You will get that PDF absolutely free if you order from Chaosium Inc. If you want to just get the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $29.99. So it looks like some folks are looking for a Game Pimp hat. Sean Nelson says they're looking for a Game Pimp hat to go with my pantaloons. Yeah, there you go. Sweet. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So without further ado, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Age of Vikings. Let's get rid of the shrink wrap off of this. So do want to mention my friends over at Chaosium Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to get a good feel for what's inside and find what's going to make Age of Vikings stand out. To my understanding, this is not a supplement to basic role-playing. This is the game itself. So everything you need to play should be inside this book. We're going to find out, but that's my understanding. So it says, Age of Vikings transports you to medieval Iceland, a vibrant land on the edge of the known world where Vikings seek honor and fame through adventure. This book contains everything you need to both play and run Age of Vikings. So there you go. Okay. Agile Monk says, Jeff, pimping games since 2010. Yeah, that's true. That's going to tell us everything that's in the book, but we're going to take a peek anyway. And then we also see what is basic role playing, which is over 40 years old. All right, let's dive on in. So our end paper has a map of Iceland. I wonder if we also have a map of Iceland here. Yes, we do. There you go. I think this is actually based on a map of Iceland at the time. I really do. I think it is. All right. So we've got that. That's cool. First thing we're going to do is take a peek at the credits page. So the author is Pedro Ziviani is what I'm going to take a guess. Pedro Ziviani. Also got some additional writing, artists, and so forth. Someone just said, W. Ford says they're not a fan of the cover. Was that a toddler in the background? I got to admit, I was kind of surprised by that cover too. All right. So there we go. Taking a peek at the credits. So we're going to get welcome to Age of Vikings. This is going to tell us a bit about the game. So we're going to have some side boxes. Examples of play are in brown boxes. Variations on rules are in blue boxes. And then examples of rules in action, that looks like that's kind of a gray. Font is pretty small. So there you go. Yeah, that is some pretty tiny font, which the newest edition of Basic Role Playing had as well. It was really small. So those of us with older eyes might be in a little bit of trouble, although I can actually read it from here. That's kind of wild. So it's talking about the sagas. Here's our hero creation. So the steps in hero creation. It says, follow these 8 steps to create your hero. Each step is explained in more detail on the following pages. And then there's 10 steps. So here's something that I had heard kind of through the grapevine. And that is there are some errors in the PDF, and people were curious if those errors carried over to the physical book, which the reality is I assumed they would, because Chaosium Inc. doesn't do what Cubicle 7 Games does, where Cubicle 7 Games will come out with a release, and it's about 6 months, maybe 5 months before they actually send it to the printer, because that way everybody who's buying the PDFs informs them of what's wrong and they fix it. So one of the things I had heard was that it says, okay, there's 8 steps to creating your hero. And then you take a look and there's 10 steps. And that I guess there are some errors in some examples of play. So we will find out. We will find out. So Freddie P said the demon in the lava looks cool. Yes, if you missed that on the cover, we'll see that when I close the book back up. Pete Strakowicz says their last Viking setting was Thrones and Bones by Lou Anders. Vikings rock. DB says, at least they're using AI. Maybe DB meant to say, at least they're not using AI. All right, so our steps: name and nickname, passions, family history, characteristics, attributes, skills, devotions, family, wealth and equipment, and distinctive features. So we've got some options here if you want to roll up your name. And if you want to do that randomly, we've also got nicknames, your grandparents' history. Here's your character sheet description. So it's going to break down what the character sheet looks like. I would take a wild guess that we are probably going to be looking at the same sort of combat system as we've got in RuneQuest. Probably along those lines, maybe not identically, but. So here we also have some random tables for the player character's history based on year. So it looks like you're rolling a D20 on these. So some examples would be you nearly starved to death, but were kept alive when. Then we've got the various different results there. So 971 was a great winter of famine. So far, this looks pretty interesting, especially if you're into Vikings. So we've got our skills. So once again, if you're not overly familiar with basic role-playing, and thus Age of Vikings, it is a percentile-based system. So what you're going to have is you'll have various different skills. I'm going to take a guess. We've also got the, do we have percentile for? No, we don't. I was going to say, maybe we've got our percentile for our attributes like we see with Call of Cthulhu, but no, looks like we've got our 3 to 18 range, and then showing us how those break down percentile wise. So as an example, if you have, oh, so these are for skills. Those are modifiers for skills. I'm looking. Yeah. Okay. So it is 3 to 18. That's pretty wild. But that's going to give you bonuses or penalties to some of your skills based on your attributes. So give you an example. What do the skill ratings mean? So 25% or less is a novice. 26 to 50% is an amateur. Professional is 51 to 75%. A veteran is 76 to 90%. And a master is 91%. Dark Autumn Scribe says, Pendragon's their current obsession. They love that game. W. Forge says, next up, Hagar the Horrible role-playing game. Agile Monk says that, I think it was Agile Monk saying that Vikings are hot right now. Yeah, there are some pretty solid Viking series as far as, you know, like streaming services and stuff like that. So a little talk about RuneQuest. I'm a RuneQuest fan. I like RuneQuest quite a bit. I've talked about how RuneQuest kind of scares some people off. So it's like, it's not as complex as people think. And it's, I think what really scares people is just the amount of lore. But the reality is, look at like Pathfinder. I mean, Pathfinder's got tons of lore. And I think some people are like, oh, I think I need to know all this stuff just to to run RuneQuest. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. Little Britain's with us tonight. Says Pendragon's an absolutely great game. Have you tried or looked at the Paladin setting? Isn't that that's the Age of Charlemagne, if I remember correctly, and it's more of a historical sort of role-playing game using basic role-playing. Well, it actually uses the Pendragon system. So we've got some ready-to-play heroes. Just taking a peek at some of these. Is he all scarred? He looks like he's all scarred. Maybe all burned. Yep, actually says distinctive features. Shaven head, burn scars on neck and face, and new clothes. Okay. So we've got our game system here. So talking about our time scale with campaign time, real time, narrative time, full turns, which represent 5 minutes or 25 combat rounds. And then, of course, we've got the combat round. And, of course, real time is real time. Talking about skill use and ability use. Characteristic roles and opposed resolution. Oh, my God. The resistance table. Something that had disappeared from Call of Cthulhu. We no longer have the resistance table in Sea of C, but it is still in, I'm pretty sure it's still in RuneQuest. And as you can see, it is in Age of Vikings. So healing, encumbrance, spot rules. So this is essentially, we're getting all of the rules for how to play, as well as an explanation of how to play. Looks like we've got some environmental rules here. So like exposure, hunger, and thirst, weather. Here's our description of our skills. So we've got agility skills, communication skills, manipulation skills. So like conceal and craft, devise, mythic skills. I'd say the artwork is solid for the most part. Maybe not the most exciting that I've seen, but it is relatively uniform too. So now we're going to get into combat. And as I mentioned, I would take a guess combat is going to probably be similar in its approach as RuneQuest is, because one thing I would expect from a Viking role-playing game is very fast, very lethal combat. And it looks like we've got quite a good amount of crunch here too. In fact, damage to weapons, combat results. I take a guess we've got critical hits. Here we've got fumbles. Here's our weapons, armor. Okay, so something else to keep in mind if you're, once again, not overly familiar with basic role-playing, as far as combat goes, armor does not make you more difficult to hit. Armor soaks damage. So and you also have hit locations. I'm sure we've got the hit locations with Age of Vikings too. And each hit location will have so many hit points. And funny enough, if you total them up, they'll actually equal more than your overall hit points. But if you lose the overall number of hit points, you die. But each limb, each area of your body will have a certain number of hit points. And if you've got armor, then the armor will absorb damage. Unless, if I remember correctly, unless it's a critical hit. If it's a critical hit, I believe it ignores damage, if I remember correctly. Kevin R. Smith says, the game's supposed to mirror the Icelandic sagas. It's possible those works had a lot of detailed gore. Possibly. I'll be the first to point out, I am not someone who knows really anything about the Viking sagas. Okay, so now we're going to get into the life of Vikings, or at least life during the Age of Vikings. Things like commerce, money, raiding, law and government. This is, I do believe, a fantastical Viking setting, although I would assume it's very, very low magic. So here we've got our gods. So here we got a breakdown of the pantheon. So we also have Christianity, passions, reputation, and status. So passions and traits play a huge role in Pendragon. I don't think we're going to see that that by way of Age of Vikings. So it looks like passions define a hero's life intentions and serve to inspire them. The game master may call for a passion roll. At other times, a player may suggest and request one with the game master's approval. Remember that the game master has the final say on the appropriateness of attempting to use a passion for inspiration. Players are warned that passion rolls can be extremely risky as well as rewarding. A fumbled passion roll results in despair. Ultimately, the player is in command of their hero's actions and behavior in any but the most extraordinary circumstances. A failed passion roll cannot force a hero to do what they would not want to do. It merely suggests how the hero's own feelings suggest they behave. Only in the case of despair or some supernatural influence, does a player lose control of their hero's behavior. So we've got inspirations, critical successes, special success, success, failure, and a fumble. We also have gaining a passion. So it's like we've got, do we have rune magic? Yeah, it looks like we do. Looks like we've got some rune magic here. And a variety of different runes. I'll tell you what, if you are interested in Vikings and like a fantastical Viking era, or I guess I should say mythical, not necessarily fantastical. This is looking like this could be certainly a must-have. All right, so I actually used this as our thumbnail today to promote tonight's episode. I thought that was pretty cool. I guess at one point, this was going to be a book called Mythic Iceland. And I believe it was going to be a supplement for basic role-playing. And then it was decided that Chaosium Inc. was going to just make a role-playing game. So here we've got our Chronicles of the Ages of Vikings. I'm going to take a guess we should get some adventures. Maybe 1 or 2 adventures in here. So this is, looks like kind of the history of Vikings up to that point. It's like a bit of a gazetteer for Iceland. Other nations, the Byzantine Empire, England, Denmark, France, the hidden people. Icelanders hold a firm belief that there are two nations in Iceland, the nation of the Norse settlers and the nation of the hidden people. Aren't the hidden people like Fae? And the hidden truth. Aren't trolls a big deal in Iceland? Or is that Norway? Kind of curious. Kind of curious. Here we've got our bestiary. So we've got our mortals, our berserker. Every time I see a berserker, I always think of Clerks. Yeah. All right, here's merfolk. Monsters. Huh, okay. And then we get into NPC record sheets. So the player characters looks like they can have followers. Or maybe the NPCs have followers. Sean O'Donnell says the Troll Hunter movie is Norwegian. John Mescal is with us in chat. Very nice. Right, Sean O'Donnell, my love is for you is like a truck berserker. So some downtime. Does not look like we're going to get an adventure here, folks. Little surprised. Oh, as soon as I said that, the book must have heard me. I went, whoa, wait a second. This looks like the Alping to get you started. I'm curious the sort of support we're going to see for Age of Vikings. Just sort of curious. Pretty nice. That's pretty cool. All right, so that is a peek inside Age of Vikings from Chaosium Inc. Once again, this 312-page hardcover is available now. It carries an MSRP of $59.99. If you order from Chaosium Inc., you will get the PDF absolutely free. And of course, if you want to just score the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $29.99. W. Forge says, Jeff, if you say it, it will come. Yes. You know, it was funny. We were talking about the Mandela effect at my brother's one night. And one of the things is with Field of Dreams, if you build it, what's the rest of it? Because a lot of people misremember what it is. But anyway, oh yeah, sadly enough, I should also mention some bad news today. My brother and sister-in-law and their family, one of their cats, it was like their last cat actually, passed away today. Poor little Milton. He was a good cat. Kind of sad. Kind of sad. So happy trails, Milton. It was funny because if you follow the show, from time to time, I have to go house sit for my brother and my sister-in-law. And at night, Milton would, more times than not, go to sleep on my head, which I had not had a cat do to me in a long time. But yeah, sorry to say, happy trails to Little Milton. Okay. So Semper Buffo says they're starting a campaign this summer. Wonder if he's talking about Age of Vikings or another Viking-related role-playing game. So cool. So, of course, I will have a review of this in a not-too-distant future. I'm going to try to actually get a review of this out early next week. Fingers crossed. So tomorrow, we are going to take a first look at Call of Cthulhu, the Sutra of Pale Leaves, Twin Suns Rising, also from Chaosium Inc. I reached out to one of my contacts at Chaosium Inc. to make sure it was okay for us to take a peek inside, because this is actually under a review embargo until June 8th when it comes out. I don't know. For some strange reason, Chaosium Inc. now has review embargoes on just about everything that comes out, and the embargo is lifted on release day. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's just is what it is. So anyway, so I reached out because I had already said, hey, we're going to take a first look at this, but I wanted to double check because of the embargo. And yes, we are going to take a first look at this on tomorrow's show. So, because I can't, I haven't read this. The shrink wrap's still on this. I can't give it a review, but we can take a peek inside, see what we've got. I do understand it is a King in Yellow campaign, which takes place in 1980s Japan. Interesting. And of course, if my contact had said, no, Jeff, it's an embargo, we'd have been looking at this on tomorrow's show. But we're going to take a look at Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, Death Steps, and Light Fingers on Tuesday's show. So we will be doing that. All right. So that is it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watch live and took part in chat, bigger thank you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company as I share a news piece or flip through a book or unbox a game, what have you. But I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for being a subscriber to the channel or watching our videos. There's over 2,200 videos here on the channel, and I appreciate you taking time out to watch any of them. I truly do. Of course, tomorrow we're going to be taking a look at Sutra of the Pale. Is it the Pale? No, it's the Sutra of Pale Leaves for Call of Cthulhu. And if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. We'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. We'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my upcoming review of Hudson and Brand Inquiry Agents. Why do I always want, I keep forgetting the agents part. Inquiry Agents of the Obscure from Stygian Fox. I will be sharing my review of this on Friday. So be sure to take a peek at that. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, I certainly hope every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.